more than 40% of 16 to 19-year-olds are obese. More groups have to take responsibility for their part of the equation. I noticed this a long time ago, and it really bothers me because the tentacles of these companies are spreading all over. Coca-Cola has a bigger footprint than any company out there in terms of like where they are. You go to like villages in Ghana and find Coca-Cola cans being kicked around where you can't find nutritious or access to the things that people need for a day-to-day living. Like how?
Yeah, and you want to? I'll take it to another point. It's funny. It's not even the same ingredients in the Coca-Colas across countries.
Oh, it's not yet. You're 1,000% right.
Right? Like they do different things. They put way more additives, preservatives, different sugars, all types of stuff in stuff for Americans than they do in other countries. And it's wild because, again, we don't point the finger at them. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a matter of, right, that's just the system that most of us are raised in and we just don't think about it. But like, if we're going to start to say that a child should / can, or it's recommended for them to be on medication or do a surgery, then we should really be looking at the things that they're consuming and the companies creating those things
1,000.
and holding them way, way more accountable.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Good Life.
Welcome back to another episode of the Good Life.
That's right.
Full effect. We're back in here. We're back in. Welcome to the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, C. Muzan. I got my man, Coach Kabi, in the building. Say what's up, Kabi.
What up, dog?
6.5 hours later.
Oh, Happy New Year. Happy 2023. I think this is our first episode, right? Feels like it's been a minute.
Listen, you're fresh off vacation, so I know time flies, right? You have no idea what happens. You're out sunbathing, taking in that vitamin D. Listen, rolling in the sand with your bae.
Yeah,
right. Just living life. So yes,
hey, y'all lucky. I'm not the big picture guy, man. I was out here cooling. I was hey, But it was good, man. It was good to start the year off right. I had the opportunity to travel with family and see both sides of the family, my side, my wife's side, and got to kind of really connect before the year gets like busy and cooking. And I think it's something we're going to keep as a tradition, end the year and start the year, with family. So we went from one side to the other, and I think it was really nice. A couple of days, a week might be a little long, but I think it was really good, and it feels like centered to come back and get back to it, man. How you been, brother? How was your beginning, your end, and your beginning of the old and new year?
It was great. I've been telling everybody, though, it was just another day, right? A lot of people make the New Year's resolutions and, right, it's the end of the year, beginning of the year. And again, I understand it signifies a lot for a lot of people, but for the whole month of December, I feel like I was just doing the planning work for 2023 anyway, right? It wasn't about the day necessarily. It was literally about, hey, let's take this time to just get calibrated and make sure that we head into the new year ready to rock and roll. So come, December 31st, January 1st, like I was already in the 2023 mindset. I think my wife went to sleep before the ball dropped. I wound up watching like that Georgia Ohio State game, and for those of you that were watching it, right, like that end play, that last like field goal was right around midnight or right around the time that we went into the new year. So I didn't even really notice it, but overall, man, just good time. Again, coming from last year, heading into a brand new year, just rejuvenated, ready to recalibrate, goals written down, laser focused on kind of where I'm headed and what I want to see happen. So it's just been a good time, right? Been a good time. And now, we're damn near 2 weeks in, you know what I mean?
Right.
2 weeks in, it feels like, we've been rocking and rolling for a little bit of time. So excited to see what the rest of the year holds in store for us, for the family, for the good life, right? Like, welcome to episode 101.
That's right. Season 4.
Season 4, been rocking and rolling now. Again, we've been letting you guys know that we are going to add new additions, new things to the podcast, to the show. We're going to have guests coming on. Again, feel free to drop a comment of somebody you want to see on the show, somebody that you want to hear from, that you want us to ask some questions of. We're going to start adding those in for season 4, and just a lot of good stuff in store, man. So I'm excited.
Yeah, but one thing that will definitely not disappear from the show is us showing love and respect, like we should, to the great city of Detroit. We're gonna highlight one great team, the Detroit Lions. Lions, right? Why are we gonna do that? No, they did not make the playoffs. That's all right, right? What they did do, though, is defeat the Green Bay Packers and keep them from making the playoffs, because that's Detroit. If we don't make it, you don't either. Okay, that's what we do. We win games to keep you out of the playoffs. We don't win games to get ourselves in the playoffs. That's okay. Great city of Detroit, Detroit Lions. Stand up, stand tall, stand proud. All right, we're out here. Okay, let's go Detroit. Let's go Detroit Lions.
Here's a fun fact I actually learned by watching that game, or a piece of that game. I didn't watch the whole game. You know, the Detroit Lions is owned by a woman.
Great city of Detroit. You see that? We represent. Yeah. That's why we stand for Detroit. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I think they popped it up on the screen. The principal owner, I'm sure, right? Like all the football teams, basketball teams, they have like partners and groups of people, but like the principal owner is a woman of the team, which again, not that we should be surprised. You know, women are equal to us and everything that they do, right?
That's right. Except for football. No.
except for football. But yeah, that was shocking. And I was like, oh, that's dope. Good, you know, shout out to the good city of Detroit for having a woman owner of a franchise of an entire team. I'm sure there's a couple other ones. I feel like I'm probably not correct, but I feel like the Phoenix
Saints.
I was gonna say the Phoenix Suns in basketball was owned by a woman, but I might be completely off.
I think they're off because the Suns was recently sold due to allegations of racism, etc. They recently had to sell to somebody, so they may have sold to a woman. I'm not sure. What I do know is I believe the Saints and the Pelicans principal owner is a woman, I believe, and I think that they own both of them. I guess you could also say the Lakers, Jeannie Buss, being the principal there, and her brothers of the Buss family. Yeah, great Jerry Buss. I don't know any others, but yeah.
Interesting.
You know what I think would be more interesting is I don't think there are any, like, I want to say black owners, which is like male or female. I think there are more female owners than there are black owners, if any. The only one I can really think of is Michael Jordan. None in football. Only one in basketball is Michael Jordan, and none in hockey, as far as I know, and none in MLB.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think you might be right. I feel like Mark Cuban did something. Maybe it's just like the head of somebody in his organization is a black lady. But like, yeah, I'm not sure. There'd be some interesting stuff to look at, right? Just kind of the demographics. We all know, right? Majority owners, especially in the NFL, are definitely of the Caucasian persuasion. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that changes over time. Right,
I believe there's some ownership groups cooking up. Magic has got his hands in a few things. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited about the 2x2 today because this is a topic that needs to be discussed.
It definitely does. So let's dive into it, guys. This segment of our show is called 2x2. 2x2, where you get our 2 minutes. Our 2-minute take from both Kabir and myself on a topic. Today's topic, just like Kabir said, is an important one. It's something that definitely needs to be talked about. But here's the headline. It says there's a new guideline for treating childhood obesity, which includes medications and surgery for the first time. The new guidelines emphasize that obesity is a complex and chronic condition for children without a simple fix. Coach, go in, man. Take your 2 minutes. What's your thoughts on this?
I think there are a few things that has to be addressed here in terms of this childhood obesity thing. And I think first, I'll start with one. It reads that more than 40% of 16 to 19-year-olds are obese, as identified by Duke University and Wake Forest University. But worse, 26% of 2 to 5-year-olds are overweight, and more than 15% are obese. That's 2 to 5-year-olds. And we know from research and experience that obese kids become obese teenagers and become obese adults. And if they don't, they still have lingering effects. So it's an incredibly important topic to discuss. But I want to caution us as we discuss this, because the tendency when we talk about obesity is to single individuals out and label them as lazy, label them as undisciplined, label them as other things. And it helps, right? It helps individuals kind of separate themselves so that they feel better about themselves because, hey, I'm not that large. But the truth of the matter is, when we start to look at new models that are being presented in the research, one specific article that I shared on my Instagram from Tufts University School, Friedman School of Nutrition, which I will be doing some work with this year. Stay tuned. It points us to that the fact that the energy consumption model, which is what we're typically used to, calories in, calories out, based on discipline, is one that we need to take a much closer look at and consider that there are other models at work. And then other one is more of an insulin resistant model, right? Which is more so looking at how the hormones are functioning in the individual and making overeating a symptom, looking at it as a symptom rather than the cause of the entire chain. Meaning that it could possibly be that we're looking at a root cause of insulin resistance leading to a host of issues, one of which is overeating and obesity amongst diabetes, PCOS in women, etc., and a bunch of other things, rather than it being the singular cause. Now, this would mean that we have to unlearn and undo our label of lazy, undisciplined individuals and actually treat the root cause, right? And I think this is a huge paradigm shift that's going to be hard for a lot of people to make, but it might lead us into a better direction of actually caring for our loved ones and providing them with tools to actually live in the modern food environment, which I talk about quite a bit on my Instagram.
Awesome, man. That's my sentiments also, right? Like this take, obviously you have a little bit deeper insight on a lot of it, but just reading the headline and not diving fully into all of the other things, just the fact that it says that this is a more complex problem that should be solved or can be solved with surgeries or medication just seems completely off to me. As a child, right? As an adult myself, I just had this conversation with someone. I don't like to take medication. I'm not a fan of putting different medication into my body. Definitely haven't had any surgeries, any of those things, because I don't feel like it's necessary at that point, or for ourselves to be able to get to the place that we want to health wise. Again, by learning information from people like yourself, Coach, and other right resources out there, we know that most of this stuff can be changed and starts with some basic things, specifically around consumption. What are we feeding these kids that 40 to 60%
40% of
For
16 to 19-year-olds.
40%. What are we feeding? What are 16 to 19-year-olds consuming that 40% of them are becoming obese? That's where we start. That's not a complex issue, in my opinion. That's not something that we can't seem to figure out. Just trace, what are they consuming? And if we can change what they're consuming, there's no need for medication and surgeries. Again, in extreme cases, sure, maybe, but even then, I don't really agree with it. I really think that this is something that can be changed by consumption, by food, by water intake, by less sugars, some of the stuff we're going to talk about today anyway on the show. But I just think this is a major overstep in another way for the traditional pharmaceutical industry to really profit just at a younger and younger age. So this is ludicrous.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we highlight, and correct me if I'm wrong, what part of this is really ludicrous, right? Because I think there are some complexities to it when we get to the cellular level, etc. However, the solution, once we trace out exactly what you're saying, which is, let's look at our food source. Let's look at what's being done to the food before it gets to our table. Let's look at what are these kids consuming, right? I think once you get to that, then we can really look at the simple solution. But it's simple but not easy, in the sense that everybody wants to point fingers at the kids. Everybody wants to blame the kids and say, hey, it's their fault for overeating, right? They're the lazy ones, they're etc. Nobody is pointing fingers, or not enough people are pointing fingers to big agriculture as to how they're modifying our food so they're becoming less nutritious. And so we have to eat more and more of it. And I'm pointing a finger at big food as to how they're modifying and cooking our food. They're not pointing and add in processed seed oils and add in all this different stuff to it, so that it becomes more addictive and less nutritious and less filling, all right, and less satiated. They're not pointing a finger at their environmental conditions that are putting toxins into our system, that are modifying our hormonal responses, right? And some are more susceptible than others. So we have to, it's like a lot of people have to take part of the blame, right, of why this is going on. But it's a lot easier, and I'm guilty of this too, because this is all, or even properly educated our health professionals, right? This is not the concept I'm talking about. It's not like widely accepted, or it's not like even widely looked at or studied as to. And I'm not saying we need to do a ton of studies, but like a lot more groups have to take responsibility for their part of the equation. You can find, I'm always mention this, you can find Coca-Cola cans in places you can't find water, right? And I noticed this a long time ago, and it really bothers me, because the tentacles of these companies are spreading all over. Coca-Cola has a bigger footprint than any company out there in terms of like where they are. You go to like villages in Ghana and find Coca-Cola cans being kicked around, where you can't find, nutritious or access to the things that people need for a day-to-day living. Like, how?
Yeah, and I'll take it to another point. It's funny. It's not even the same ingredients in the Coca-Colas across countries.
Oh, it's not yet. You're 1000% right.
Right. Like they do different things. They put way more additives, preservatives, different sugars, all types of stuff in stuff for Americans than they do in other countries. And it's wild, because again, we don't point the finger at them. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just a matter of, right, that's just the system that most of us are raised in and we just don't think about it. But like, if we're going to start to say that a child should / can, or it's recommended for them to be on medication or do a surgery, then we should really be looking at the things that they're consuming and the companies creating those things,
1,000.
and holding them way, way more accountable.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that back up, because we haven't even really highlighted the actual recommendation, which I think is the most ludicrous thing, right? All these things, like you mentioned, can be solved systemically, right? By not by surgery and medication that goes to the same cause or goes to the same problem, right? That we've been highlighting on the show for a very long time. And really, that's what? That's medications with side effects, surgeries with side effects, and who's performing these surgeries, who's supporting these things. Like, come on. Like, it's been shown, pretty simply that even management of insulin alone, right, can lead to kids having a better outcome, right? We can use food-based products to manage the situation, right? It's like, why are we jumping to toxic medicine when we have tools like this at our disposal? And it's just another symptom of the ugly monster that we're fighting. Well, whether it be let me stop right there before we get canceled.
Follow the money. That's it. Follow the money, right? So something we've talked about before, but this leads perfectly into our topic for today, episode 101, guys. We're going to have Khabib talk to us a little bit more on the health side. Remember, this is a health and wealth podcast. Yes, we talk about other things that lead into you getting to the life that you want and designing the life you want, and getting to the good life or the great life, so to speak. But we're going to dive in and have more of a health conversation today, specifically around what are the things that we need to remove from our diet or from our eating, and what are the things that we need to add in our nutrition or the things that we are consuming this year if we want to be optimal in our health. So I'm going to toss it over to Khabib, and Coach, dive in and talk to the people about what it means to really be eating healthy, and what are things that they're taking away, and what are things that they're adding this year to really optimize.
I love this topic. I'm excited for today because I think it's incredibly important while people are open and they're ready to make a couple of tweaks, while they still have energy at the beginning of the year. Like, it's important to give them some actionable steps they can take towards improving their life in terms of looking good, feeling good, and performing at their highest level as corporate athletes in general, which if you don't understand what that means, you probably are a corporate athlete. All right. You probably are one. Do you work for a living? Fantastic. You're probably a corporate athlete, most likely. Okay. So today we're going to look at 3, maybe 4. We might throw in a bonus there. Things to consider subtracting, and things to add, consider adding. That could make a big difference. And I've seen a couple other individuals put this sort of format out there, and I thought it was very, very important to get some actionable steps. And you're going to hear a lot of the same things around, because I think a lot of the same research is kind of going around.
And because that's just the way success is. I've always said success in every area, it comes down to a few different things. It's not 85 different things that you got to do. It's basic, simple things. So that's why you possibly have heard this before.
1,000%. 1,000%. One that a lot of people have heard about is seed oils, right? And what's very interesting is that when you and so this is 3 things to subtract. When you look at subtracting seed oils, you end up subtracting like 80, maybe 90% of junk food from your diet, because they contain seed oils, right? And when you look at the process of processing seed oil before it gets to you, it becomes very, very clear why it should be eliminated from the diet. So just to give a simple background here, seed oils are vegetable oils or oils obtained from seeds. Are highly, highly processed, heated, extremely high temperatures, and they contain fatty acids that oxidize and create byproducts that are very harmful once they're in our body. They encourage toxins to be stored in our body fat, and they are everywhere. Examples are, sunflower oil, corn, cottonseed, soy, canola, grapeseed, rice bran, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so many different forms that sometimes you can't even recognize that it is seed oil. Very common in foods like Cookies, delicious. Crackers, delicious. Chips, also delicious. Candy, oh, delicious. Right? Veggie puffs, right? You think you're running away from it. You grab some vegetable chips, canola oil. All right. Granola bars, those are good, right? They're good, coach. Aren't they good for you? Oil, seed oil, right? Nuts of all kinds, oil, 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 right? Everywhere. And then even the alternatives for those avocado oil, olive oil, and coconut oil are ones that, if we can, we really should back away from a little bit.
I was
If
literally
we can
about to
better.
ask. I was literally about to ask that question. Like, okay, I understand those, and I was literally about to name those three. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, coconut oil, olive oil. What was the other one we said? Avocado oil. Yeah,
Yeah.
those three. I was like, okay, that might be something, but
Right.
no, no.
Ideally not. I mean, those are better than the others, right? Those are better than the others I named. The sunflower, cottonseed, grapeseed, those are better. Canola for sure. Soy, better. But these are tough too because a lot of people will cook with them. Now, olive oil, fantastic if you don't heat it up really high. Still a little tough, all right? But for most people, they'll cook with these, which therefore, and heating them up to high levels leads back to the same situation. So what you're really looking at, and this is what I've started, my wife and I have started, or have been using for a while, but have um, increased our use of, is tallow, right? Ghee,
Tallow.
ghee and butter.
Ghee butter.
Right. So we're using a lot more of that. Being generous with my portions of butter. I do not think that is the issue at all. And you'll notice that those behave differently at room temperature than the other oils that we're talking about. All right. And that's how you know. But I think this one is huge. If nothing else, just realizing how many things have it. Like
Sure.
it's crazy. Once you start paying attention, which I have tremendously this year, you realize, goodness gracious, this thing is in everything. Like everything. I remember I was looking at something the other day. Oh shoot. Oh no, that was more sugar. Like some beef jerky. And I was looking at, why is there sugar as a second ingredient in beef jerky? Like, what is
Wow.
this? Right. But yeah, seed oils, if you can limit or eliminate completely, you will do better off tremendously. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's
What are your
awesome.
thoughts on that, man?
I mean, I've always been a
You're
fan
a
of
chef.
butter. Yeah, I mean, I am. Thank you. I've always been a fan of butter, but you often, again, another one of those things. Butter gets a bad rep, like cholesterol and all the things that clog your arteries. That I don't want to eat too
Yeah.
much butter. But I've always been a fan of butter, and butter has tasted amazing. And right, you get to ghee. Ghee is a form of butter, right? It's just without the milk solids or the solids that like come to the top or something like that. Like it's kind of like clarified butter for those
Right.
people that right, like just want to call it what it is, clarified butter. But you can buy ghee in a bottle. And then you said tallow, like beef tallow or right, like another animal tallow, which is basically like the fat from the bone of that animal, right?
Right.
So again, all three of those things, good. I mean, I love butter. Most people love butter. I think this is a great way to now start to pay attention to some of these things. The one thing that comes to my mind as a finance guy, as a financial guy, is these things are way more expensive than canola oil, coach. Like I need that gallon of canola oil for $10. Like I need that instead of the pint of ghee for $10 because that's what
Yeah.
that goes for. So
Right.
right,
Right.
back to some of those financial things to make sure that we can do these things for our body. Yes.
1000%. And let me give you the key. What do you do with that 10-gallon canola oil?
You fry stuff in it.
Stop doing that. Stop it.
What do you mean? My deep fryer needs oil.
Stop it. Stop doing that. That's your answer. Stop deep frying stuff. Yeah, see,
That's
that's
fair.
crazy now.
That's fair.
That's crazy now, right? We're not meant to be doing that, right? Is this then on?
Listen,
So yeah.
big shout out to Aaron. Aaron, we appreciate the comment. He said we're speaking to him directly. I feel like we're speaking to a lot of people today on this health conversation. But again, he has some numbers. He says consistent with pre-diabetes, and right, he doesn't like the way he's eating, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like that, Aaron. Hence why we're having this conversation, to give you the alternatives that you can do, the things that you can start subtracting to get yourself back in track, brother.
You are not alone, my brother. According to statistical modeling, by the year 2030, there'll be 568 million full-blown diabetics.
Sheesh.
Right? And they are continuously increasing that statistic, by the way. I recently saw a revised version of that, and the number was higher. That's just the one I got right here off the top.
That's why Mark Cuban is coming to save the people
with the insulin, right? So let's sell them the insulin, right? Don't get me started, bro. Let's not go all the way up the river, right? See who's throwing the babies into the river. Let's just get more people to take them out, and we'll have you pay more for it. You know, I mean, oh yeah, it's cheaper. Yeah, okay. But how about we actually address the root cause, my friend? No, we're not going to do that because it doesn't make you money. That's fair. That's fair.
Seed oil is number one. What's number two? What else should we subtract?
Mark Cuban with a cape. Gosh, you know what? That's why Luca should leave you. Anyway, I'm good. Yeah.
Number two on the subtract.
Number two, subtract. All right. Processed sugar. Now, I have to say processed sugar. I've done a post on this before because it's incredibly important, right? I'm not saying all glucose, right? Scientific word here for sugar is bad. And I don't want people to be fearful of sugar. I just want them to rearrange their sources, right? And processed sugar is cocaine.
Ooh.
Okay. It is that white powdery substance that you get after processing their natural ingredients for a long period of time. It's the same thing. Right? Except it is accepted. Right. And extremely addictive, highly corrosive, highly toxic, highly toxic, and extremely addictive. So, you know, we just put it right on down and everything moves on, right? So remove especially high fructose corn syrup, things like that are in pretty much everything.
I was just about to say, right? Like
everything.
The first two things that we need to subtract is in pretty much everything, right? It's in everything, guys. Like I'm sure you could run down a whole list of things. You can open up your fridge, open up your pantry, and you are going to find 90% of the things in there. These
two in particular, right? Yeah. The seed oils and the processed sugar, highly what would you say, ubiquitous, toxic
word.
Yeah, I just want to throw that in there. Shout out my SAT. You feel me? Right, but it's everywhere. You know, natural sugar is found whole, unprocessed in foods like fruit, dairy, and some grains, some vegetables. Fructose is a natural sugar found in fruit, and it is delicious, right? But we take grains, we take others, and we process it. And then our body struggles with it, high concentrations of it. You see, you know, a group, I forget their name, that chew on cocaine leaves and get the little bit of energy going here. But we take all that and we say, forget it. Concentrate it all. All right, cool. Right. And people start going crazy. Of course it's going to cause issues. It's high. It's concentrated in and then we abuse it. Right. Like we said, it's everywhere. So remove the processed sugar. Right. And add more fruit to your diet. Add more fruit to your diet. Add some raw honey to your diet. and maybe even maple syrup to your diet, and remove all other forms of sugar.
Can
Right,
can
get rid
can
of them.
can we talk about like fake sugar? Can we talk about like
Ooh, yeah, let's do that.
all the ones that are out there? I feel like there's like monk fruit sweetener and cellulose. I don't know all the names.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of stuff out there.
yep, yep.
What's that about?
Stay away from them. Stay away from them.
That's easy. Why though? Like, are they worse than just regular processed white brown sugar? Like, is that in my so again culinary background thing I've always been taught and told about nutrition is like, the more pure the product, so to speak, right? If you go and look at the ingredients list and it has whole ingredients, things that the better it is for your body because your body can process it. As soon as we
Yeah,
start getting into chemicals and things that you can't pronounce, it's just not going to be good for your body.
yep,
So, like, that's all these crazy sugars are, right? It's
yep.
just,
So there's actually some new research that's dropping around this, and I'm gonna actually do a deeper dive on this, maybe on a post on my page or even on our next episode here, and drop some here on this. And so I'm not gonna go too deep into it because I forget some of the details. However, on a higher level, what they're finding is that artificial sweeteners can actually be worse for us for a number of ways. The ways that you've already articulated just now, in a sense that they have digestive issues, increased blood sugar, higher risk of cancer, increased blood pressure, and other adverse effects. But the other way as well is that you're signaling, it's like a fake signal to your body, and your body gets confused, particularly when paired with other forms of carbohydrates. So when you have a Diet Coke with your McDonald's meal, or you have a Diet Coke with even like your chicken and potatoes or whatever, right? The effect that it has basically confuses the body and sends it into an uproar because you're signaling that something is coming that doesn't actually come. So your body goes and looks for it. And in the process of doing so, it's like a bull in a china shop. All right. That's on a high level of explaining it. So you're not actually, because yeah, you're avoiding the calories, you're eliciting the sweet sugar response, and you're not delivering anything, which they have found is actually worse than even the processed sugar that it's replacing, especially when consumed with other foods. Now, what they have found, the distinction there is that if consumed by itself, they've seen that it's not as bad. But again, we're diving into the minutia of things, right? We're diving into minutia of things, and it can also increase like your desire for quote unquote bad foods within hours. So now you're scarfing things down, right? So you really want to just train your body to stay away from them. You really do. Now, if you have, again, if we start to dive, the devil's in the details, right? If we start to dive into, well, what about one here and one there? You playing with fire, you may not get burned today or tomorrow, but you will eventually get burned.
sure.
Right. So what I'm doing for myself, and what I will suggest humbly to you, is to consider cutting out all forms of processed sugar and getting your sugar fix from natural sources such as fruits, lots and lots of fruits. Mono fruit meals would be my personal recommendation. A little bit of melon with some passion fruit, sprinkled on top.
Listen,
Right.
we don't all live in sunny Southern California, sir.
That's right. But
Like,
you can get last I checked, you can get a melon anywhere in
yeah,
the
they're
US.
garbage. They're garbage. I've gotten.
All right. What else? What can you get?
Berries are pretty prevalent right now, right?
Wild blueberries. Get them.
Blueberries, yeah.
Wild blueberries. Get some wild blueberries. Blend them up into a little thin and put some honey on top. There you go.
Pomegranates are pretty good right now. Last I went to the store out here, they had some mangoes from Peru. I didn't try them. I was going to. I was fooled the last time I got a mango like a
Yeah.
month ago, and I was like, yeah, no, this is not the season for it. I was fooled by melons too, right? I think I got a fake watermelon at one
Wow.
point. Like it just wasn't good at all. And then yeah, cantaloupe was pretty trash. Pineapple's been really good though. Had maybe 3 or 4 solid pineapples over the past few weeks. So that's been good.
Yeah.
Oranges have been really good.
Oh, there
So
you go.
yeah, so there's some things, but melon, not so much right now.
And the thing is, you don't need to eat all the fruits.
Right.
Okay. Get the one that's in season for you that you can get access to that you like, that is good.
Right.
And honestly, eating 1 or 2 oranges and pineapples for a season is not the worst thing in the world, and it's actually fairly natural, right? Because the earth gives them to us at certain times, and we take advantage of those times, right? It's not like, I think when people hear fruits, it's like they want to eat all the fruits, right? In fact, that's actually not I really don't recommend. I've always said this. I think mono fruit meals are better, right, in terms of our digestion, etc. But that would be it. Regardless, replace the processed sugar with natural sugar. You can still get honey. You can still get maple syrup, right? Yep. Throw that in there, and you're good to go. And that's what I've been doing for myself as well.
Love it. What's number 3? The last thing we should subtract, or you're recommending that we subtract from our...
Yes, sir. So we have first seed oils, then we have processed sugar, right? And then I would say refined grains. Refined grains. Okay. So
like quinoa? Like quinoa?
I don't think quinoa is refined. By refined grains and processed grains, I'm talking like flour.
Okay, got you.
Like flour. Yeah. If you can get some people would do much better upgrading to quinoa. You know what I'm saying? Refined grains. One that's a little, I'm talking about flour. Really, honestly, most things baked in terms of like on the dessert department, our cakes, our donuts, our man, I know, our cookies, right? Our pies, our breads. Our croissants. Croissants are delicious.
Oh, the croissant.
Les croissants. All right. And we just got to be cognizant of these things, right? And the thing that's tricky for me, I've been kind of trying to test on myself to see what my blood sugar level does and how I feel, etc. Is rice, white rice to be specific, because we know that's processed. Right. But for some, there's a mixed research out there. For some, they've either been eating it long enough, or the way they prepare it, let's say you prepare rice, put it in the fridge, take it out. The glycemic effect is much less, right? Cold or whatnot. But there's a lot of cultures that use rice for a lot of things, rice porridge or congee, right? Or other things. And it just becomes pretty clear, or it's not as clear, I should say, whether or not it should be avoided in totality. But you're better off doing rice and potatoes than you are doing, baked goods and other refined carbohydrates. Even oats, man. Even oats. Haven't been too big for me recently. But obviously,
Wait, you're saying even oats are something we shouldn't have, or like some stay away from a bit, or you're saying it's something to replace?
It's something I have personally not been consuming too much of, right? But again, oats is a big step up for certain. It depends, right? It kind of depends. We can pretty much agree on the cakes and the pies, right? We all kind of already know that, especially with the cakes baked with frosting. So we have refined sugar or processed sugar, processed carbohydrates on top of each other. and probably have some seed oil
There's,
somewhere in there.
there's definitely some seed oil in there.
Right.
There's definitely
So we just like that's a triple devil cake. All right. So tres leches. Right. It's a pretty like double double one right there. So
I clearly just had some tres leches like
did you really?
Like 3 or 4 days ago.
Delicious.
It's so good. But that's okay.
But we talk about these things because it's things that's pretty ubiquitous, right? It's like everywhere. It's and we don't even really think about it. And then I think a lot of our stomach issues also comes from like mixing these things, wherein we don't really know what's causing the issue. So we have some fruit, we have some meat, we have some dessert, and sometimes we might have them all on the same meal, right? And I think doing a removal of systematic removal, elimination diet, if you will, of some of these things can help you narrow it down as to which one of them is actually bothering you the most. And I will be willing to bet that there's some crossover with one of these three. Some crossover with one of these three for sure. And then there's a ton of politics around, it's this one, it's that one, it's this one, or whatever. But you really have to do the work and not just take the word for it. So this is just a suggestion of things that I'm trying in my life and recommending to clients and seeing some results from. And then some periods of, I'm not talking about, it doesn't have to be intense fasting, but periods of removing things to focus on other things, right? It's always remove this to focus on that, right? It's never like to starve yourself or to put your, that's not the case. It's redistribution or reallocation of focus, right? So when we say remove these things, then what are we adding, right? And I'll say number one, I think a lot of people can add more fruits. They can add more soluble and insoluble fiber to their diet, right? Which can help with vitamins, minerals, help with weight management in terms of actually helping us feel more satiated, can help in terms of feeding our gut and preventing gut irritation, etc. Help us, again, feel full longer so that we're not constantly snacking if we eat properly.
Fiber supplement, is that like Metamucil? Is that fiber?
I appreciate you tossing it. I personally do. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Soda fiber. I personally do not recommend Metamucil for a lot of reasons. If you go to, without getting too deep, the fiber supplement that I personally use is called Balance, and it's a 7 fiber matrix. Patented by them, works. If you mix it up, you literally can see the difference within the fiber. And this is something I take 5 to 10 minutes before my meal. Helps with bloating, helps with feeding the gut first, control carbohydrate absorption, full faster, stay full longer, and feel more satiated and satisfied with your meal, right? So I don't like Metamucil. If it works for you, that's great. Keep rolling. But that's the one that I use personally, and it helps with controlling our blood sugar spikes, which is really what we're looking at. The higher the spike, and the longer it stays up there, the more issues that we have, right? And so we want to control those big spikes by first improving the quality of our food, the quality of our food selection, right? So the food itself, and then the food selection, and then the food itself, how nutritious it is, and then also using tools like a Balance to actually help us in terms of feeling full, being satiated, and feeding the gut and controlling other factors as well. Does that answer the question?
That did answer the question. My grandma's on Metamucil, and I remember her doctor talking about fiber. That's why I made the link.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's very interesting, because I think Yeah, a lot of people could use more fiber in their diet, especially if they don't eat a lot. As
Mm,
well as you get older, you're sometimes your appetite tends to decrease.
yeah.
But even if you're younger, I think this could be. I truly think this could be a really great tool for even kids for controlling, because it's this is food based, right? Not a drug. It's food,
Mm,
right? So let's maybe not try the medications and the surgery right away and try food based,
right.
right? And also plant based as well. So if that's of concern, I think that can definitely help tremendously.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Number two, add, if you don't have a religious or ethical objection, right? Add meats and some organs to your diet,
Mm,
right? So high quality meat. A lot of the research around red meat is, I know, can be very confusing. But high quality grass fed red meat is not the worst thing in the world at all. In fact, some would argue that it's one of the best things in the world. Okay, I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it can be very helpful for some people in rounding out their nutrition. Um, Iron, zinc. I mean, bioavailable nutrients in terms of minerals, in terms of vitamins, B12, and those things can be very helpful to us and are very uh, available, meaning they're ready for our body to absorb, take in, and actually use. Um, and again, I think I'm not saying this is a everybody must eat meat. That is not where I'm coming from. However, I have seen a lot of people add more meat to their diet and done a lot better, because it takes them away from the processed oils. It takes them away from the processed sugar. It takes them away from the flour, right? We've all seen a bad vegan and a good vegan, and we've also seen a bad quote unquote carnivore and a good carnivore, right? The quality of your food matters. And I think good vegan and good carnivore have more in common than they actually do separate, because they're very concerned about the quality and the source of their food
mm,
coming in, right? So I've never been one to label myself in terms of I'm this, I'm that. I think it's very restrictive and doesn't quite make sense for a lot of people. It's like, religion. I really, when you go into the diet world, it's very religion based. Um, but I think if one thing isn't working for you, try something else.
mm,
But something that is universal is the quality, right? It's the quality of what you're able to take in. And then if the quality suffers, using tools to help you maintain that way of eating. Whether for some people, they have a religious objection, so they need to supplement some things,
mhm.
right? B12 is a common one that you hear about, and other things that if you're not eating any meat at all, you're going to want to look at supplementing, or at least know that you're not deficient in it. Most people I know, they be eating that meat. They're good, right? They just maybe need to improve the quality of the meat so it's not so much fried meat, right? Again, the frying, get rid of that fryer, right? They take that meat, deep fry it in some seed oil, and now you don't messed up. They
Yeah.
take that plant, deep fry it and add more sugar and bake it at 375, and now you don't messed up, right? A lot of it is, in my opinion, what we're doing to our food is almost more important than the food itself, because when it comes out of the ground, or when the animal is killed for you to eat, like from that point to when you actually eat it, there's a lot that we do to our food. And I think cooking is one of those things where it's like people are just burning stuff. They're just like doing wild stuff to their food.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even know it because they don't do it themselves.
That's so true. And that process is very interesting to me. As you've been talking, my wife and I had a conversation a few months back with people that own like a butcher, right? Like they raise cattle and like slaughter it and like sell the meat and everything. And it's been really interesting to think about what that looks like if we were to do something like that, to understand, to like know exactly where all of the food like where our food comes from, where our meat comes from specifically. And when you say like grass fed, it's like, man, what would it look like to have 3 cows that we own, that we raise, that are grass fed, that event again, right? Slaughter, some people might not again like this process, it is what it is, right? But like, to slaughter it, to have the meat but know exactly where that meat came from,
Yeah.
to know exactly what that animal was fed, to know exactly how that animal was raised,
Mm-hmm.
to have none of the the transportation things, or the right, like all the things that come into play.
Yeah.
What would that life look like if we did that? And it's something that we contemplate, because I was very curious when I was talking to them, like, how does this work? How does that work? Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you, so who buys it from you? Like, how often?
Mm.
How quickly are they raised? Like,
Yeah.
I'm super curious about that type of stuff, because again, eventually I think this is how we are going to live. I really
I
think
hope
we're
so.
gonna. I hope so too.
Yeah.
Again, back to kind of full circle, the beginning of our conversation. Pointing and holding the big agriculture accountable, and
Yeah.
the people that are processing food, holding them accountable, but also from a business standpoint, taking business away from them. Let's not hold
Right.
them accountable and make them change. Let's just change it. Like, that's the entrepreneur way, right? Like, let's go have a couple small ranches across the country,
Yep.
right? That are, and I'm sure they already have these types of things. It's just that we're not tapped in. That's why meeting somebody that has it, it's very interesting to me, because I think this is the way that we should live. We should know exactly where our chickens come from. We should know
I couldn't.
exactly where our goats and our cows and all
Yeah.
that stuff comes from. You know what I mean?
I think you're spot on, man. I think you're spot on. And this also, this is what it used to be when
Right.
people were walking around and healthy, and individuals didn't, children from 16 to 19, 40% weren't obese, right? This is what it looked. Every family had a cow or two or three, had chickens that laid fresh eggs, so there was no issue. Got the milk straight from the cow, so there's no issue, right? I think actually a lot of people, uh, right, who are divorced from their food, if were you reunited with their food, not only will probably change some of their political beliefs, but will also realize what real food looks like and is and what comes from, right? If you're eating a lot of meat, but you're divorced from the process of how that meat gets to you, I don't think that's natural, because you don't have an appreciation for the food that gets to your plate, what that cow has given up so that you can eat. There is no gratitude there, right? And that's all part of the eating process that we've removed ourselves from, and also the cooking process that we've removed ourselves from. And I think it's incredibly important that we get back to that. Now, I'm not as hopeful as you in the sense of that's where we will go. I pray that is where we go. I know that is where my family intends to go. Grab some land, and whether we do this ourselves or partner with locals so that we get there. If somebody is doing it, we should support them, right? But there's a reason, a systemic reason in place why we don't do that stuff anymore, and it's because of the bigs, right? The bigs have made it so it's not profitable for locals to raise chickens and raise cows and whatnot. So, and because it's not profitable and it is a labor intensive thing to do, here we are. Now we leave it all up to the bigs, who can do it at a fraction of the cost, sacrificing quality, right? And leaving us in a place where ultimately we're paying with our health.
Yeah. I hope this process changes, and I think that is it, right? It's just us. I've said this before, other places. I've probably said it here on the show. Like, we're gonna get back into a tribal nature in general, right? Just our communities are gonna become smaller and smaller for the people that think like us, or have similar values, and that's what will happen, right? Like, there will be the local community of 10 families that eat off their land, right? That they have shared food sources, right? They grow their own food, they have shared animals, they, butcher that cow, and it lasts for 6 months for all those families, or whatever the case is. I really think that this is the way we're going to get back to, and I hope we do, and it's what our family will do. So I know that will help a ton in what we are consuming, right, and really understanding what we're consuming, and get all the big corporations out of our food. That's really important.
1,000, absolutely, absolutely. And I think as we do that, we'll solve a lot of the issues. We'll
And
solve a
so,
lot of the issues. So, yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And then the last piece here would be for us. I mean, we could throw in a few good ones here, but I think one that a lot of people could benefit from is bone broth.
mm,
Bone broth, right? It doesn't have to be. I think we're very focused on um, the food, but we have to remember that hydration is to our body almost more important. And it's not hydration is not just water, right? Hydration is minerals as well. So hydration is from juices of fruits and vegetables of bone broth that we make ourselves. Highly recommend that you look into the process of making it yourself. It's not too difficult, and it's far better than grabbing bone broth off of a shelf for the same reason. The processing, what is done to it for it to be on that shelf, is very different than what you do when you go to a butcher, get some bones from them, probably for very cheap, and bring it home and make it yourself. You kind of skip a lot of the processes. Now, we also know, and then this is more of a bonus thing. I think add in some form of fasting as a practice to your routine will help, because the truth of the matter is, guys, we will always have
uh,
microplastics in water. We will always have hormones in our meat, and we'll always have pesticides in our produce, right? Because that's just what the system is right now. So we have to just train our body and align our body and engage in practices that gives our body the ability to filter those things out at a greater and greater level, because those are the individuals that are going to thrive and be disease free. Ones that make the best choices with the things that they have. And we understand that not everybody is able to go shop at a local farm or even a local Whole Foods. Some people are in food deserts. Some people are in places where they can't get access to those things. So the second best thing is like putting tools right in place for individuals to leverage, and then also tools in place for them to actually get their body in a condition that they can, for lack of better words, handle all the junk and the toxins that go in. And I think fasting is a great tool for a lot of people that can use, and quite honestly save money in the process.
I agree. It's funny. In the midst of this conversation, I've been thinking about fasting. It's literally been a thought that's. I have some trips coming up towards the end of the month, and I was like, man, I need to fast before I go. One, it cuts down my bloating immediately. Like immediately. Like if I fast for like 2 days, like literally just 2 days, right? Just on juice or right, just even a water fast. Like if I just cut some things out, my stomach goes down right away. Like just right away. And so I noticed that, and I got to fit into some suits coming up. So I'm like, maybe I need to fast a bit.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And in the process of doing that, then you want to pay attention to what in particular is happening to cause that inflammation.
Yeah.
Like what is really going on. And so you can pinpoint those things so you can stay, so that when you fast, it's not like you're coming back to the same place, but you're actually elevating each time.
Yeah.
Right. And this is one of the things that I've really shifted from and in terms of, or towards, in terms of really educating the people that I work with, is we want to, every time we fast, we want to elevate. We don't just want to come back to the same place.
Right.
So we kind of just like make up ground that we lost. We want to elevate each and every time. And that's by, in the process of fasting, pay attention, oh, okay, this makes me feel, okay. Once I introduce this, oh man, now I'm off. Okay. All right. Maybe that's the one. So you get more information each time. But you can utilize, if you're just starting out, this is a plug that I'll put out there. This year, I'm on a mission to get 100 people healthy and wealthy. We are on a mission as well to get people healthy and wealthy all the time. And if fasting is something that you've done, like we all know benefits of intermittent fasting, especially for controlling insulin resistance, which quite frankly, 88% of us have. Hit me up because I'm doing a program where you can get access to a lot of actually all of the resources that I have to offer. If you hop on an easy intermittent fasting program that can get you actually going. We'll get you the fitness aspect. We'll get you the fasting. We'll get you the book. We'll get you a whole bunch of things. It's actually the first time I'm putting it on wax. But if you hear this and you're interested in this, DM me on Instagram or comment on anywhere that you see this post. And I would love to get you first and foremost healthy, because there's some very simple things that a lot of people can do. Like I'm seeing so many people that they just take that one step. They just take that one step to clean up what they're eating, to be more consistent in their movement and actually are progressing up, not just staying stagnant. And then they clean up a few things in their lifestyle. It can be like off the radar. See, I spend a lot of my time diving into the details, and that's fun for me. I like it. I like being well versed on it. But I realize that if people will hop on these three things just as on a fundamental level, like we really don't need to get into the nitty gritties. We don't need to get to the 202, 303 level before we start seeing massive results, right? And it's just consistency in these three areas: what we consume, how we move, and our lifestyle in general, right? De-stressing our lifestyle, de-stressing our body. So it's something I'm doing this year. I mean, you're getting something pretty incredible for a very, very, very low price. If you find value in that, just hit me up. More than happy to help.
That's huge. Hit up Khabib. Also, if you're watching on the screen, join the Facebook group. The Facebook group, we're dropping more insight, more access to us, more of these types of things in the Facebook group this year. So feel free to hop in there, join us. There's the link. It's bit.ly/TGL Connect. It allows you to connect with us here on The Good Life because, again, this is the year you get your health and your wealth in the right place, and we want to help you in that process. So thanks for those tips today, man. 3 things to subtract, three things to add. I have some things to work on, clearly, and I'm excited for it, though, right? You know, personally, right, already kind of working on the movement this year. That's been the commitment, working on the movement. But now, again, just adding a couple of these things. And for the people that are listening, I know there's going to be some major takeaways that if you can just subtract one of those things or just add one of those things in, it can make tremendous impact in your life. So again, we're here to make sure that you're getting the tools and resources and all the stuff that you need to be able to take your life to the next level, guys. And that was it, man. That was it. Take us home.
I love it. Appreciate you guys for joining us. We will come back again next week, or we will be back again next week for some more info for you around health and wealth. But until next time, shout out Detroit and peace.
There you go.
Welcome to The Good Life.